Okay. Should be live.
All right. Hello, everyone. We'll call the meeting to order. We have the approval of the minutes from March 16th. If there are no questions on that, do we have a motion to accept them as submitted?
I'll make the motion.
Second,
Cattle second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right. And once again, in light of Executive Order 202.1, in-person attendance at public meetings is suspended until further notice. And should someone wish to make a public comment, they may do so by emailing the BOE at waltoncsd.org or by calling the district clerk at area code 607-865-4116, extension 6130. Our discussion items, the Facilities Committee met on March 23rd. Would someone like to give a report on that? Kevin?
Sure, I guess. So I'm trying to get caught up here with running last minute. I guess basically we basically just went over the concepts of the flooring, what we're looking at doing there, and whether or not we wanted to go out to change any of the current bids that we were going out with a project. And the committees and rest of the committee, feel free to step in here. I believe we come up with a recommendation that we're going to leave our project status alone, continue to monitor the situation that we have at school, at Townsend School, and then possibly be looking, well, not possibly, but we'd be looking to move forward with another project to address the situation there in the future. But we felt that it was important that we kept our word to the taxpayers. We laid out a project, and we didn't want to be changing that project in the ninth hour. We didn't foresee what is going on with the school when we laid this project out still, but we still thought there was a lot of importance on maintaining the project in whole, as we had stated it would be.
I think that one of the things we looked at was the structural integrity of the flooring, and the engineers and everybody thought that, if we were looking at a 2-year time span plus or minus to develop a separate project just for that, that they were comfortable with us inhabiting that space with the plan in place. But also noting that, there's a lot more than just 2 classrooms that need that gypsum decking removed at Townsend and replaced from that 1935 wing. So it's a much bigger project, I think, than what we anticipated as far as doing the whole thing. And we definitely, I agree with Kevin, we talked about it, and we did not want to muddle up the capital project we have right now. We have clear direction and scope on the capital project right now that's been approved by the voters, and we definitely did not want to intermingle the two and have it its own separate item, because the ranges, if I remember correctly, from design to construction were 800 to 1.2 million range to complete that project. So we felt like that would be a standalone, go to the community again and ask for approval once we have momentum into the capital project we're currently working on.
So, I mean, it's clear that the flooring is safe and the gypsum board has deteriorated. Mike, will our guys be keeping track of that and kind of logging it as, as they inspect it, just to see, if it's deteriorating quicker or about, staying about the same?
Yeah, I believe, and please correct me, anybody, if I'm wrong. The discussion and decision was that our guys would monitor, take photos, so that we have the date stamp, send it to the architect for their review, so they can compare where it was over time period. So it would be, we haven't determined a calendar yet, but I'm assuming it would be probably every 3 months, 3 to 6 months frame, and that we would funnel it so we'd have that recorded time, almost like a timestamp video, but with photos, so we can see
Right.
it.
Good.
And if you recall, we did put down over the room that had the most deterioration, we did put down the additional plywood on there, and that will be remaining on there. So that room is more than structurally sound at this point. It was structurally sound to begin with, and now it's even more structurally sound.
Right.
So, and we'll figure out what we're going to do with that, whether we put down some paint, depending on the utilization next year, whether we put down some paint to make it a little bit nicer, appealing, and also to eliminate the wood smell, because that can irritate some students. So we'll see what the utilization is next year.
Right.
And our construction management company and our architects that we have on staff for our project, we're both seem to be more than willing, if we had questions, that they, since they're going to be on the facilities anyway, that they could just take a look at that and not really be hitting us for other services, you know, because as long as we didn't get too deep into it. But if they needed just a set of eyes on something to make us feel a little bit better, they would be willing to do that. So I think we're all in all, we're in a pretty good spot. I mean, we do have an issue that we're going to have to address in the future, but it's not the emergency that we thought it may have developed into.
Good. All right. And as a reminder for the public as well, tonight there will be a community budget forum starting at 7 p.m. Members of the Walton School community may watch it live on our YouTube channel. And then there will be an online survey will be available for feedback on our website budget page, or comments and questions may be emailed to the BOE at waltoncsd.org, or again by calling the district clerk at 607-865-4116, extension 6130. Correspondence. We've received a thank you letter from Vanessa Warren for the Walton Central School Board of Education nominating her as a reelection to the DCMO BOCES board. That was nice to receive. And are there any additions to the agenda?
We do not have any additions to the agenda tonight.
Okay. All right, so our consent agenda. We have the declared surplus, a very old vision testing machine. We have the cooperative BOCES purchase services resolution. We have an approval of the school psychologist contract service for Paul Sena, and this would be on a per diem basis. We have an unpaid leave of absence for Vanessa Wickham. And then we also have our personnel appointments. Christy Stevens, substitute bus driver. Roger Bowles, I believe it is, substitute bus driver. And then Michelle Summers, long-term substitute teacher. If there are no questions or concerns on that, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move it.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, we are up to new business. We have very much appreciated donations again. We have $100 from Diana Offnick to the class of 2022. We have $25 from various parents as part of the Krispy Kreme sales to the class of 2022. There really should be a limit as to how many you can order those. And approximately 200 masks from Joanne Pomeroy to the Townsend Elementary School. Do we have a motion to accept those donations?
Great, to move it.
Second?
I'll second.
Chad will.
Did you get that, Corey?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Just hope to get some Krispy Kreme donuts.
No point in buying them. They never get home to you.
I guess I have to deliver quite a few tomorrow night. I think they're coming in tomorrow.
Oh, wow. Next we have 8B, to adopt the pandemic plan. This is for the Appendix 9 of the district-wide safety plan. Was there any questions or concerns on that plan? If not, do we have a motion to approve that as presented?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Arnie will second it.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Opposed? Carried. And next we have the Board of Education meeting schedule. And if there's no concerns or conflicts with that, do we have a motion to accept that?
I'll move it.
I'll second.
Arnie will second it.
All right, all
Whoever.
in favor?
I,
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, we are up to the administrative remarks. The only thing, Dr. Mack, you might be able to,
Whoa. Are we shortening that, Dr. McDonald?
oh. What did I say?
I think you were referencing the middle school, but it's okay.
Dr. McDonald. On the leadership on the athletic department, number 2. It just ended. All guests must be
pre-registered.
pre-registered.
Yep, all guests will be pre-registered through their athletes. We've already been currently doing that for the away contest and the neutral contest. It's a mandate through the league and how we're operating. And we've already communicated out the guidelines. We also put out an additional communication yesterday to help, because we're just now moving into our outside home contests. So we want to make sure everybody is clear on what's expected of them, which is they have to wear masks, not any different. And once they're in their socially distant area, if they stay in their socially distant area with who they came with, they of course can take their mask off for mask relief. If they're outside of that, they're expected to put them back on, but to stay masked. So we're following the guidelines to a T, and hopefully all goes well.
Good.
Do you think there's going to be any opportunity to open that up to more of the spectators per student? I didn't know if any of those changes coming effect at first will affect that or not.
Yeah, this has already changed a little bit since this report, because as we know, it changes daily. We are, and this has already been communicated out, we are looking at for football, because that's the biggest group that we have. We're maximizing the 200. We're trying to do what we can for families. We can easily do it. So we're looking actually at for away spectators, 2 per. For our home spectators, 4 per. And we believe that will get us to still leave us a little bit of room. And we will work with those unique situations. If we have step parents involved or things of that nature, we're going to work within that. That will also allow us to let a spouse of a coach who puts in such time to be able to be there. Our field hockey and soccer with the pre-registration through the athletes, we're having to pre-register. We're not putting a cap on it. We're just letting them pre-register. We're not going to hit 200. The away team has to pre-register. The home team has to pre-register. We're going to add them up. And because there's no walk-ins, they have to be pre-registered. So if we happen to have a contest where we hit that 200 threshold or more, we'll work through that before the game and the contest. So we're opening it up and maximizing it to for our families and for our students, and going from there. And that's begun. We have a football game modified, I think, tomorrow. Additionally, I've asked for a reconsideration of the MAC league policy for volleyball. Now that there's a change with the indoor, their policy is the same as basketball before the change of no spectators except for a family night or a senior night. I've asked for a revote and consideration, and they granted it to me. We're doing a league meeting tomorrow night to have a vote on going to 2. I'm asking for 2. We don't even have any seniors this year. We're a young team. So we will have 0 spectators at any of our volleyball games all season. I'm asking for them to consider it because there's been a state change in the DOH capacities. So they have granted that vote. We'll see what happens tomorrow at 3 o'clock. I'm hopeful. And we'll see what happens that way. So I know that was more than what you wanted, but it linked in. So I figured I'd jump to it.
No, that was good. You know, we've actually come a long way since the pandemic started, and I feel bad for the kids that weren't allowed to have spectators or didn't even have a sport. But to come this far, it's still important that everyone wear their masks, you know, still, so we don't ruin, you know, how far we've come. You know?
Absolutely. And that's why we're going to make sure that we follow the DOH guidelines so we don't end up getting shut down either by league or by school. But we also feel that we can safely accommodate these spectators, which is the key. If we couldn't, we wouldn't. But we feel we can safely accommodate the social distancing. Right. So for the benefit of the families and the students, we're putting in the work.
So are we going to have somebody walking around checking the people?
Yeah, we will have an administrator on site at every contest. We actually had to have an administrator at the football game Saturday at a neutral site at Shangle Valley. I actually did that myself because of conflicts with our other administrators. And
and also you wanted to watch.
Well, it worked out well. It's the first game I've watched all year because I've also, if I haven't been needed for supervision, I haven't gone. I would be a spectator, and spectators haven't been allowed. So I followed the rules as well. So I've been watching the video. So it was nice to be outside, nice to see everybody. I thought that our fans and our students, honestly, they're teenagers. So you have that moment where the coaches have to give reminders, and I saw some things that we're going to tighten up and address. But spectator wise, everybody, I thought Graydon was there. I thought it was really good. Everybody went to their areas and they took off their masks. Some people elected to keep them on. People along the fence grouped for the most part with who they were with. We had a little bit of a pocket of people, but it's people who are together, and some of them had them off, some of them had them on. And I didn't address anybody as far as spectators goes. I thought that our folks did okay. Graydon, I don't know what your perception was from your side.
Yeah, I thought it was a nice day to wear the mask with the breeze in the shade, but it was. I think everybody was pretty respectful of the rules and seemed like they did a good job. There were a couple clusters here and there on the fences that happened, but I think overall, and they did as best we could, and I think it was lived up to everybody's expectations. So it was nice to see you there, keeping an eye on people, because honestly, it means something when you have an administrator there on the field and they see you. The presence is felt and keeps everybody in line. So overall, I think it was well.
And the issue is that unfortunately, every site you go to has a little bit of a different flavor to it. So we have a football game at Sydney Thursday night against Sydney. And as some of our sports have already found out, at Sydney, it's 100% mask wearing 100% of the time. Even if you're outside 20 feet away, you got to have your mask on. And if you don't, they address you. So we're electing, I don't know if we're doing it wrong, but we're electing to address people if needed, if they cluster together with people who they're not with and they're not socially distant. That's just our approach, and that's Sydney's approach. Everybody has a different approach. But we've, in our community, I think our community has been unbelievably supportive and compliant to the concept of the social distancing guidelines given by DOH is what we're doing. And we're not going above and beyond that. We're following the guidance. And so that's what we're going to continue to do.
Right. And we have to be respectful of, if Sydney requires it, then that's what they require. We don't want to take it away from, the parents that want to see their children play. So, we have to respect that. So. Yep,
absolutely. And what schools will do, honestly, is if there's somebody who's not compliant, us as well, if we have to address somebody and they're non-compliant, the game stops until the individual leaves the property, and then it begins again. So it impacts the students. So it's important for everybody to comply. It's not what any of us want to be dealing with, but we aren't through the pandemic yet. That's
And
the bottom
particularly when we're playing on neutral fields, I mean, they're doing a favor to us by allowing us to do that. So again, as Rhonda said, respect to those. And, you know, I've heard of situations where spectators weren't allowed and maybe opposing teams, spectators showed up. Well, you know, that's not us. And I think that, you know, well, we have to act on our own and not be so concerned about what maybe other people are doing that may ruin it for their team. So.
Right.
Great. But again, I can't say enough about our community and what they've done overall. I think we can all be very proud of that.
One more question for you on that, and just so it's out there for the public too. I was curious, are we going to utilize the Maple Street entrance still, or are we going to do everything through the school, the high school? Just because we're going to have sports coming here, what, Saturday? I think is the first set of home games. Is that right?
Correct.
Modified.
Right.
Yeah,
So, well,
Okay.
there's a modified game tomorrow. So we're going to set up just like depending on the contest, we're going to set up for football just like we would if you're taking tickets. So we'll have multiple ticket stations that will be doing check-ins with a pre-registration form. And anybody who's not on that pre-registration form is not going to be allowed in. It's going to be asked to leave. That's why it's important to have administrative support. If somebody's not compliant with the mask wearing or social distancing, they'll be addressed respectfully and asked to comply, and hopefully they do. If they don't, they'll be asked to leave as well. But as far as the way we're working at for athletic contests that are inside, is we bring everybody through, athletes and everybody comes through the middle school entrance, and our students are checked with temperature, and the away students are checked with temperature as they come in and gather the documentation, and then they move on. So everybody's checked in by athletes and coaches. I'm assuming that the football games and such will be the same way. I'm not sure with soccer and field hockey if they do it out in the back in the field or not. I don't know what the layout is. But as far as the spectators, we're determining with each contest, even contest if it's a modified game at Townsend, where we're going to have the check-in table. And it's going to be a check-in table. They pre-register. The athletic directors send each other the pre-registration list. They literally have it printed out as Graydon witnessed Saturday. They have it listed right at their table, and they check you in, they check you off, and that serves as a contact tracing list. If in the event that there happened to be a positive case at that event, that list will be turned over to the Department of Health, and they'll use that as part of their contact tracing for possible quarantine. So that's part of the regulation and the requirement from the Department of Health in order for us to have the events.
So I understand that the parents would be aware of this information coming home from the student, or, you know, having access to the website. But those in the community that are used to just going to a football game, how are we putting that out there to the general public to realize that unfortunately you can't attend because we are limited on the number of spectators?
It's every week we put out a list of all the contests, website, social media. It's been communicated through the students that it's pre-registration only. So far, we have not had any concern or any issue with that because it's pre-registration and through the athletes. And that's the way it's been communicated. They did have parent nights. They did have information nights at the beginning of the season, so communicated that through that as well. So far, we haven't had any issues. The home football game next week. Is it next week? The first home game next Saturday?
Saturday.
Will be the first contest where we would typically have the public.
General public.
Yeah. So that's being communicated through the social media and such. And we just put an article out on the website. We could put an article in the Walton Reporter next week and get ahead of that as well. And they will.
I'm just wondering if that might help, because as you know, we have a lot of our senior or elderly community that comes and supports our athletes, you know, year after year, and just to kind of give them a heads up before they actually come onto the grounds that unfortunately we are limited to the 2 or the 4 spectators. And
No,
they may not
that's
be
an excellent point. We will, I just did we just worked something up Monday that we put out as additional information. I don't know if anybody saw that with the spectator detail for spectators this week, along with the schedule. And we'll take that and formulate it into a press release, and we'll ask the reporter to run it next week.
Okay. All right. If there were no other comments on any of the supervisor remarks, we can move on to the superintendent remarks.
Okay, so I'll be brief. I know we have a busy schedule this evening. The first thing I'd just like to mention is Blacktop. Obviously, if you've been here, you know that we are, it'd be nice if we were doing Blacktop this summer. We've got the 2 entrances and we've got the turn in the back. We have Townsend School, the parking lot over there, they need some work for us to be able to get to our next project on that Blacktop. So we are working on getting quotes. We got 1 quote. We're getting a local quote. I believe Webster's is coming in today. I think they came in to take a look at it. And we're getting a quote from them to hit the current problem areas at Townsend. And rather than our guys trying to fill these holes when we're trying to get a year and a half away, I'm getting a quote for the entrance, the big holes at the entrance, gate and the Stockton Avenue entrance, and the major area in the back, just for them to do some more professional construction, hole fixing, not cutting it out and doing the work that we're going to do. But we've got to get some more time in here to get us to that project without, these are getting to the point where they're going to be damaging. We just found out the Blacktop plants, we thought they were going to open next week, was the report that we got. They're not opening to the 15th now. So I don't know if you heard that, Kevin, in your world, but that's what we were told today by the contractor. So we were hoping that next week, with it closed down, we were going to hit Townsend, get that taken care of, and hit these, be quiet, boom, but not happening. So we're figuring it out. Hopefully we can get it done and within the next couple of weeks, at least over here. Townsend will now have to do some filling of some of the deeper holes and then do whatever work we're going to do in June.
Are we limited to the number of plants, Kevin? Are there a couple of plants or just 1 plant locally?
For the most part, there's a few plants, but there's 1 company that owns the plants. Cobblestone Stone is the local blacktop producer in this region, unless you go all the way out to like Binghamton or something. But I believe they were going to start tests on their weights and their scales and stuff like that, and their match like the 12th. So that makes sense that they'll probably be looking to be open for business around the 15th. So, and then usually for that facility, Oneonta is one of the quicker plants to open because it's got volume. It's one of the busier facilities. So that and Cobblestone is one of the first ones that open. Hancock would be a little bit slower typically. All depends on where any of their big projects are too. So but the 15th would sound about right because like I say.
I think that's the route to go though, because, I'm not saying that our guys aren't capable, but they don't really have the equipment to actually do that. And then that really takes them away from, their daily, routine. So I think that's one of the better paths to go then.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And that's what I told them. They'll do whatever's needed. They'll figure it out completely repeatedly, but that's not what they do. That's not their expertise. And you're right. We have plenty of other things that they need to be concentrating on around the facility. So if we can get that taken care of, get it so that we don't have to worry about any damaged vehicles, anything like that. If this continues to get worse, it will be better for everybody. So I'll keep you in the loop on that. And as we progress, the other topic that I just wanted to touch on was, as you know, one of our goals this year, or my personal goals this year, is strategic planning process and analyzing it, figuring out what we can do. I have found an excellent facilitator through NISCUS, actually through LEAF. And I've got in here for your review. And if you want to take a look, go take a look at it tonight. I know this got here late. I apologize, but I've just received some of this info. And it has a proposal, services, and then a PowerPoint that we actually went through with when he presented to me. This is the superintendent would actually be the facilitator. He's done this in several school districts, including Green, last year. It's a very thorough process. It's in line with the philosophy that I'm accustomed to in strategic planning, which is essentially a real large stakeholder group gathering input from the community and then working through making sure that your current mission, vision, and belief statements are accurate or adjusting depending on what the feedback is that you get from the community as well as the leadership groups, and then the development of action plan and action steps for the year. So that's there for consideration. The good thing about this is they have been able to obtain a BOCES COSER through LEAF. LEAF is the professional development side of and sports side of NISCUS, New York State Council Superintendents. And so it will be receiving BOCES aid. The cost, as I've stated, I believe, but it would be between 14 and 16,000 this year, especially up front, and then there'll be maintenance each year after that, because the year up front we're doing everything, looking at everything, and that's before aid. So after aid, 60% aid coming back the following year, our net cost would be approximately 5,000 to 6,000, 5,000 to 7,000, which is a very reasonable rate. And when you look at the proposal of services that have been laid out, this is a very thorough process, and I think something that would benefit all of us. So we talk about this at the April 20th. I'll have the full proposal, I'll have the full cost. And I just wanted to get it tonight and mention it and give you material to take a look at. And then we can make a decision I'll ask for a decision at the next meeting, whether or not this is the direction we want to go. Okay. And that's all that I have for this evening.
All right, thank you. Did you have
with
something?
I want to throw it out there, Mike, if you had anything you wanted to look at with our proposals, I'd feel free if the board was agreeable with that. If you want to, when you get your proposals on patching, just to whatever, any questions, feel free. As long as the rest of the board doesn't mind taking a stab at that if you need it.
Yep. Appreciate it. When we get the quote in, last quote in, I will communicate it out. It's probably going to be anywhere from 19 to 30,000 if the first quote was any indication. So I'll see what this next one comes in at.
All right, thank you. All right, we do have a need for executive session on a matter regarding an employment of a particular person. Do we have a motion to enter into executive session?
Kevin, I'll move it.
Arnie will second.
Kevin? Okay. And I don't believe that there will be any action afterwards. Okay, so I will ask in advance who will make the motion to go into general session and adjourn the meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, we'll see you.